Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. In this video, we're going to be talking about the recent This Week in Star Citizen post and going over what we've got to look forward to over the next few days. Alpha 4.2 is coming to live real soon. Also, Idrises are turning up for RSI subscribers. There's some cool new sub items as well for those people. And we have a big dev response about server problems and updates, which is well worth talking about. This Week in Star Citizen, Alpha 4.2 is now available to all waves in the PTU. If you haven't checked it out, now is a great time to jump in and help us kick the tires of the latest build. Your feedback goes a long way towards smoothing out the rough edges before its live release. Huge thanks to everyone who's already hopped in and shared their thoughts. We appreciate it and keep it coming. Throughout June, CIG are running the Show Us Your Colours celebration 2025. You can check that out if you are so interested. You can bag yourself some prizes. I will link that stuff down below. CIG are continuing their sort of Bar Citizen World tour as well. CIG are going to be attending one at Bar Citizen Toronto on the 7th of June. And then on the 14th and 15th of June, we've got sort of worldwide Bar Citizens happening, and CIG are going to be in attendance with all of that stuff. I will chuck all of that info down below so you can see if you want to try and attend one of these events. I'm going to be going to one in Manchester on the 14th. At least that is the plan. What's going on this week though? So CIG have already released our patch watch, some new PTU patches, and the June sub com link, which we'll come to in a second. Later Wednesday, we're going to have a roadmap update. I'm quite excited about that. It's probably just going to confirm what is making it into the 4.2 patch admittedly this time around, but we could see some other updates. That is possible. Something that's probably a bit more exciting for me is the monthly report is also coming out later Wednesday as well, and that will look at what CIG have been working on over the last few weeks, what they're working on now, and reveal a bit more in depth what is happening in development for the game. Thursday, we've got an episode of Inside Star Citizen, which is going to be taking a look at that Stormbreaker new sandbox activity, the sort of next chapter of the regen crisis and a main part of 4.2. And then Friday, you get your RSI newsletter again. Saturday, Bar Citizen World Tour continues, this time Canada, Toronto, as I said earlier. Also, CIG reaffirmed recently in regards to items that we're getting in-game from Fleet Week that bomb racks will be added to the in-game shops in 4.2. At the moment, it's only flight blades that have been added in the PTU. CIG did say it would be both. It does appear that weapon kits have not been added in the patch, at least as far as I'm aware. This is things like the new Nova turret, but I expect them to turn up within the next 2 to 3 months. But we'll see what happens. Sub promotions. Voluntary RSI subs get some cool free loot. June welcomes dangerous new adventures and immersive in-game storytelling thanks to the impending release of Alpha 4.2. To help you brave the storm and aid humanity's ongoing issues with regeneration, all RSI subscribers can drop into the action in Drake's rugged dropship, the Cutlass Steel, and Praetor subs can also enter the fray in the UE Navy's own troop transporter, the Anvil Valkyrie. This month's Flare is suitably themed around the upcoming patch for all RSI subs. There's the ASD bomber jacket, originally exclusive to ASD workers in the Biological Research Division. This synthetic leather has the look, feel, and smell of the real thing. The company's logo is featured on the front and back. And for Imperator subscribers, there's also an irradiated Valakar statue. Irradiated by toxic storms on Pyro 1, the Valakar bursts from the ground in this decorative hanger diorama. I really like this. It's a bit silly, very cute. I kind of want a physical one, I think. Imperators are also enjoying other stuff at the moment until the 10th of June. I believe Imperator subs should have access to an Idris in the hangar to test flight. If I was CIG, I would release Alpha 4.2 after that period, just because I do not want dozens of Idris on the ground around the Stormbreaker event. Also, there was a big old Spectrum thread that I want to talk about. Servers are dying again, and we got a good dev response here. The original poster said, couldn't get onto the EU servers, or Asia queues too long. After 45 minutes, managed to get onto USA server, only to find no one was able to spawn ships. The servers have been really unstable since Invictus. Up until then, things seemed a lot more stable. Now it's a constant battle to get a working server you can actually join. What has happened recently to cause so much instability? Have the number of available servers been reduced, hence everyone is crammed onto fewer? Bearded CIG responded here. Hello, for those of you that don't know me, I'm one of the server admin and observability engineers at CIG. The what isn't something that we have an answer for yet, but I do have a bug in for the fact that it's happening and it's being investigated. What I do know is that the shards are getting into some kind of bad state, and when that happens, it stops processing the join queue for them. We have some graphs that help us to identify after they get stuck in this state. When they do, we manually isolate them and have to stow them and see if they recover. If they recover, great. If not, we replace them with a working shard while permanently removing the bad one. We've also gathered some debug info such as a Linux core dump, server logs, etc. that have been added to the bug to aid with the investigation, so we don't have to worry about removing the bad shard causing any needed debug info to go missing. Of course, the next logical question that comes after this is, why are people put into a join queue for a shard that is broken? Why does a person have to manually isolate these shards and replace them with a working one in order for people to play the game? The answer for this is we have to know what's wrong before we can programmatically detect it and avoid matching people into it. Notice earlier I said that our graphs are currently able to detect after the shard gets into this state, but not when. We also need to make sure that this detection is observable to a human engineer. Observability is important because in the event that we do problematically isolate an affected shard, but this isolation isn't observable, that makes it possible for multiple shards to be broken without us knowing it, which in turn would make us run out of servers for players to join. Realistically, that scenario shouldn't ever happen because our matchmaker already has logic built into it that shows us when a shard is isolated from matchmaking. So the observability work is already done and any new isolation logic just has to be hooked into it. So really, we just need to be able to figure out why they're getting into this bad state before we can isolate them. Since we aren't able yet to observe exactly when the issue happens and can only currently identify the issue after it's affected players, it's possible for a bunch of shards to break and then only become obvious that they're having issues when the matchmaker tries to put players in them. If only a few shards are affected, it doesn't take all that long for us to help the environment recover, but the more there are that have been affected, the longer it will take for things to work again. Another question that I could see someone wondering is, why can this issue only be detected after it happens rather than when it happens? This is pretty normal to have happen in video games. This is the third MMO that I've worked on, and I don't even remember how many other games I've worked on. While developers do their best to try and predict the future and make logging events to help investigate issues that arise, there's always inevitably issues that arise which need additional debug information to be added in order to find out how to fix it. So, how is the investigation going? Well, we don't see this issue happen on the public test universe, at least we haven't yet, so it may only be an issue that we see happen at higher player counts. That's going to make the process of iterative fixes slower because we need to be safer with what kinds of changes we make on the public environment. New debugging info has been added to aid in the investigation of this issue, but it has not been hotfixed into the public environment. That hasn't been ruled out yet, but we have to gauge the risks for that carefully before doing so. If we decide to hotfix the extra debug into the public environment, that will let us have a faster turnaround for knowing if we need more debug or if there are more fixes that we need to make based on the results of that debug info. If not, then we'll have to wait for the debug code to go through the PTU, which it currently is, and make its way to the public environment before we can continue with the investigation. I saw a follow-up question here as well. Glad someone posted this. It seems to happen in some manner with every patch. After the servers run for a few weeks without a new one coming out, they start to die. Inventory stops working, ASOP, sometimes the jump gates, etc. While even through a free fly, if the patch is new, things rock. It's unfortunate as based on orgs in my Facebook group, they stop playing and wait for a new patch. It would make sense to me if this would be the highest priority, as having maximum players online throughout makes for better IC usage. IC being issue counsel. Bearded responded to this again. The bug for the specific situation that this thread was made for is one of the highest priorities we can give to an issue. But things having a high priority doesn't mean we're going to be able to find a fix for it quickly. It may end up needing a lengthy investigation before a solid fix for it is found. Similarly, while the issues that you called out in your response are different from the one this thread was made for, they are still incredibly frustrating and important. Many of them are separate issues that would all need their own investigations, and in some cases may be multiple issues that have all the same symptom. In situations where it may feel like the same things may be breaking with the game with each patch, think of it more like going to the doctor for a cough. The end result may look the same externally, but a lot of the time from patch to patch, the actual underlying cause is different and needs its own fix. There was one other follow-up question and response I did want to highlight from that thread. Is there concern at CIG that in the year of stability, we are net adding more bugs to the game and adding more stuff that makes it even harder for the already struggling servers to execute? It feels kind of like we fix 5 bugs and then add 50 new bugs, and I imagine devs must feel like they can't keep their heads above water. So again, Bearded responded here. Stability can be a bit of an abstract concept without taking the time to define it, as the definition can change from one person to the next. The internal definition that we use for what is considered a stability issue is pretty narrow and refers specifically to a crash and disconnections. I'm the one that established both the internal definition for it as well as the data model that we use for how we measure server and client stability in reference to crashes and disconnections. That data model is then used to aid producers in decision making for if we should be prioritizing fixing crashes and disconnections, or if developers should be focusing on gameplay issues such as what you describe in your question. Think of it like a car. Stability is how likely it is to flip over and crash. Performance is how well it can accelerate, corner without flipping over and crashing, etc. Usability is how well the drive can interact with the car's various features. So are things more stable in the year of stability? Yes, but that's not really what you are asking about, so it doesn't help if I focus on that. You're concerned about the frustrating experiences that are occurring due to gameplay bugs and performance issues. I can't really comment on the prioritization of the gameplay issues, as that's not the area that I'm in charge of. Performance I can comment on a bit because the team I'm on helps out with that process. Fixes for performance issues are something that is iterative. It takes a lot of slow and steady work over time. We do performance captures for every single PTU build and public environment multiple times to provide our developers with the information they need to investigate and implement performance fixes. However, fixing performance issues is much like peeling back layers of an onion. When one performance issue is fixed, the next worst one usually rises up to take its place and limits the efficacy of the fix that went into place. Sometimes getting big performance gains requires new tech or complete rewrites of an old system, and there's definitely some of that still going on. But even those new systems are going to have their own iterative performance work that has to happen. Boom! That's it for your updates today. I'm really glad CIG and Bearded put out a post talking about stability there. It's nice to see the devs talk about that sort of stuff more candidly. And I want better performance in Star Citizen and better servers, more stable servers, higher frame rates, less janking, less issue with a load of stuff, and hopefully we're going to get more and more of that as the game goes on. But I think there's also a concern that when they're adding a load of gameplay and it's not working as intended, that, well, there's a load of stuff that they do need to solve there. What do you think? Are you getting yourself a little Valakar statue? Are you trying out the Idris at the moment? Are you excited for Alpha 4.2? Have you been playing that in the PTU? Tell me all the things down below, and something else that you should probably do is get yourself some NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/BoredGamer or use the links below. Get a big discount on the best darn VPN that I've ever advertised in the last, couple of years or whatever. It's the only one I've advertised. NordVPN. Get it for better accessibility, security, and privacy on the interwebs. Oh, but you won't be sorry. If you would like to further support the channel, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that sort of good stuff. We've got join buttons under videos that help support the channel as well. You get some exclusive videos that are going out now. They've got Patreon, which basically does the same. We make daily Star Citizen content here, and that's partly due to the people that go the extra mile and help out the channel. I hope you have a fantastic May, a fantastic Fleet Week, and a great Star Citizen Alpha 4.1.1 experience.